Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another day at the sauna. So, oh my gosh, as always my hair, the second I sit in front of the viewfinder I'm like, oh my god. But anyway, okay, it is deep into the heat wave that we're going to be having here in Fargo, and so that means the air conditioner is going to be on in the next couple videos. I know it probably doesn't bug you guys as much as it bothers me, but if you notice that the audio quality isn't up to its normal standard, well, I only use my phone audio to begin with, and also I need to be near the air conditioner because my poor little apartment with my poor little air conditioner just doesn't keep me cool, you know. Maybe someday when YouTube makes me millions of dollars, then I can have better air conditioning. I don't know, that was a weak argument, whatever. Like and subscribe. Okay, that's enough of being a dork, but I am making a video today that has been highly requested. I've been promising it, I've been planning it, and then other things just got in the way and then it didn't happen. This is also going to be a set of some quicker videos, famous last words. I know I say I'll keep these videos under 15 minutes and then it doesn't happen, and I'm sorry, okay? I like to talk. That's why you're here, is because I like to talk. So this isn't a surprise to you, but me, I always think that I can be quicker than I am, and then I'm not. But I'm gonna go through 10 books or series that have my favorite audiobooks, okay? And these are actually in all different genres. They all have some form of a romance, but actually some of my favorite audio experiences aren't exclusively a romance. But if you're someone who, you know, likes those genres, well, number one, you've probably already listened to those, but anyway, we're just gonna go through these in order. They're not like ranked over my favorite, but we are gonna start with my very favorite audiobooks. I've mentioned this pretty much whenever I'm asked this question, like on a live show or, you know, on my channel. I always say these, and it's still true. My favorite audio experience and some of my favorite books that are 1000% elevated by being told in an audio manner is The Illuminae Files by Amie Kauffman and Kristoff. Guys, these are so good. These are YA science fiction novels. They start with this teenage couple who has just broken up, and the day that they break up, their school on this outlaw planet, like the whole planet gets attacked. And because this planet is an outlaw, like it is doing illegal activities, there's no one coming to help them. And so they have to flee into the stars, and they end up on these 3 ships. And they're on these ships for quite a while, and they're trying to make their way to a jump gate that will help them get back to like a more populated area of the universe. However, there is some ships being sent after them by the people who attack them, who are trying to stop them from getting the word out. And so these teenagers, Katie and Ezra, they end up on separate ships. Ezra ends up being recruited into the military on that ship, and Katie ends up being put in the computer room, but she's actually a hacker. And so during their time on these ships, Katie starts to hear some racket in the underground that there is something going down on these ships, and there is something coming for them. So this series also involves killer AI or super smart AI. I wonder where my mug is. Oh, it's far away. But it has my favorite AI ever, whose name is Aiden, Advanced Intelligence Defense Analytics Network. I think I said it right. I love that homicidal AI so much, but the storytelling of this, there is sound effects, there is multiple voices. Some of my favorite narrators ever are in this series, and it's 3 books, and it's phenomenal. Like the experience is only elevated in audio, because if you look at the pages of the book, and I didn't grab any of the books to do this video, I don't really do that when I'm trying to make a quickie, but it is told through files. Like that's why it's called the Illuminae Files, is that there is this case being presented to try to hold people accountable who did this crime, okay? But that is a more like bigger picture view. The minor picture view, things are told through camera footage, which is being dictated, and then ship logs and radio communications and all this stuff is compiled. So when you try to just read the physical book, it's just a jumbled mess of files. But when you listen to it and the narrators read you and perform to you, it's fantastic. It's wonderful. It is my favorite audio experience ever. And like, I highly recommend you don't even try to read the physical book unless you're going to read it along with the narration, because you're just going to be confused. Like, I promise you, you're just going to be confused. There's some very cool art on the pages and stuff though. So if you listen and read along, that's the ticket. See, I've already talked too long about the one, but those are my favorite. The rest, I'm mostly just going to say it was good. So that's the one that I'm the most excited about. And honestly, even if you love romance more now, or if you completely only read romance, yeah, you're probably not going to like the Illuminae Files. However, if you started with YA books and now you read adult, or you like science fiction, or you just want to try something different, okay, I highly recommend. This is a series that I still reread every couple years, even though I don't, like, it doesn't have enough romance for me, but it's so good. It's so good. All right, so let's do, okay, we'll do a couple other YA ones that I actually have on this list, because I do have a couple. The other is the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. These are read by Rebecca Solar, who actually reads all of Marissa Meyer's books. This book, Cinder, was my very first audiobook, besides, well, that's not true. I did listen to a few random, like, classics when I was a kid, but my first books I purchased with my Audible subscription was these two that I'm going to tell you, and one of them was Cinder. So part of that is just why it's so stuck in my heart. And the first 3 books were out when I started the series. I had to wait for winter. And I just love how these were performed. I fell for the characters so hard. I want to do a reread of this series soon. I'm like scared because I don't know if it'll hold up the same way. It's probably been, it's been about 4 years since I've read them. I don't think I've read them since I've lived in this apartment, and that's about how long it's been. But I'm a big fan of this series. The 4 books in this series, they are also like science fiction, fantasy, YA. There is cyborgs in it. Cinder is a cyborg cyborgs don't have any rights in this world. There's a disease going through that is killing humans and cyborgs, and they're using the cyborgs to test on them instead of using people. There also is people who live on the moon, and they're called Lunars, and they have a queen named Lavana who wants domination over Earth and the moon, and so she's coming for them. And so the last kind of bastion against her is Prince Kai, who his father has recently died, and now he is going to be the emperor. And the queen, Lavana, wants an arranged marriage with him. And the leverage that she has is that she may have a cure for this disease. But Cinder, she is a cyborg mechanic, and the story starts with her getting volunteered to be a test subject for this cure. And there's some very interesting information that we find out about her when that happens to her. And that's the beginning of the story. And then there's Scarlet and Cress and Winter. Scarlet is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. Cress is a retelling of Rapunzel, and Winter is a retelling of Snow White. And I just loved how this story built. I loved all of the characters, and it's just something that stayed so close to me. Marissa Meyer is one of the few authors that I've got to meet in person, and I got to go to the book launch of Winter, and I went with my friend, and there was like a party, and it was amazing. So I love that series. The other book that was one of the first ones I bought was Graceling by Kristen Cashore. Now, the reason I purchased this one is because it was a book that I already loved. And as I say a lot of times to people who are asking me how they get into audiobooks, well, this is what I did. I picked a book that I knew and loved, and like I knew it by heart. And then I picked one that was new to me too, which was Cinder. But Graceling is a YA fantasy about this girl who there are these Gracelings who basically have like some kind of power, and so they'll have different colored eyes, and then they have a power that's called a grace, and they're very feared, and all Gracelings the king of whichever country they live in gets first dibs on them, right? So if they're a Graceling that has a killing grace or a cooking grace or is a really fast swimmer or an archer, any of those things, once the children's eyes present and their power presents, they have to be presented to the king, and the king decides whether he wants them for his court or if they can just go home. Because let's say they have a grace for like their left toe itches when it rains or something, like that's not going to be useful to the king. Now our heroine Katza, she happens to be the niece of the king, and so he has more leverage over her than most, and she has a killing grace, so he uses her to be his right hand and carry out his murders, which she had to start doing at the age of like 12. So girl has a heavy past. And then she has this secret life she's living where she is trying to make the kingdoms better, there's 7 kingdoms, by handling certain issues that the royalty isn't handling. I know I'm explaining that bad, but one of the things that happens is that one of the other kingdoms, their grandfather goes missing. So like the grandfather of the queen goes missing, and no one knows who did it, and it's very suspicious. And that grandfather's grandson, who is a prince, he is going through the land trying to find his grandfather, trying to find out who did it, because he has a special grace, which I won't reveal. And so when him and Katza come face to face, there's instant chemistry between the two of them, and they decide to work together to try to find his grandfather. So another story that I just absolutely love, that one, and it's one that I always love to go back to. They just got some recovers recently that were really pretty, but the audiobook is one that's told with multiple narrators. There's someone who's a narrator, and then there's like different voices for the hero and the heroine. So it's a bit odd of a retelling, but it was fun at the time to like get into it. I guess I do have another YA. I have the Remnant Chronicles by Mary Pearson. I've talked about this one before as like a fantasy favorite, and this is about a princess who runs away on her wedding day, and an assassin and a prince follow after her. So the prince she was supposed to marry, and then an assassin sent to kill her follow after her. And the way that the book is told, you don't know who is who, because the POV just says the assassin or the prince, and you have to try to figure out who it is. And this was one of my favorite trilogies for a long time. I don't think that it still is, but I still really loved the narrated experience. So then I have one that's not quite a romance, but is a historical fiction, and that would be the entire Poldark series by Winston Graham. So these are some other books that were not quite my first audiobooks, but close to it. I first got into the Poldark TV show after the first season of it, and it had a cliffhanger, like literally we were left on a cliff and some stuff happened, and I wanted to know what happened. So I wanted to read the rest of the books, but they were pretty like dense. They are pretty like classic written, you know, and they were pretty dry. However, the narrator for this series, his name is Oliver Hembrough, and he is very good. Like, he is so good. I love how he tells a story. And so over the next like 3 years, I listened to all the books in that series, kind of spread out over time. And there's a total of 12 books in the Poldark series. So if you like historical fiction, I highly recommend the Poldark series. I love Ross and Demelza. I think you've still seen Ross has shown up in a few of my videos before, like when there'll be favorite heroes or something like that. He's so complex and so imperfect, but his love for his wife, it goes through ups and downs and things happen here or there, but I love them. I love them so much. It's such a beautiful story of a life, and there's pain, and I mean, it's historical fiction, but I can tell you that the story as a whole at the very end ends with a happily ever after for everyone. But it's not a romance, so there's a lot of pain that you go through along the way. But okay, now let's get into the romances. All right, let's get into the romances I have on my list. A specific book, I have The Devil's Bride by Stephanie Lawrence. I've talked about this one many times, so I won't say too much. This was my first Stephanie Lawrence. These are narrated by I can't remember his name. Oh crap. It's not, is it Derek Perkins who does those? No, I can't remember his name, but I love the narrator. Love this one so much. Kresley Cole. The entire series is done by Robert Peck. Absolutely love it. I listened to all of these books in 2020 and I'm obsessed. I adore them. Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. The narrator, Roxy Isles. Perfection. Perfection. This was the first Pam Godwin that I ever listened to. It's the second Pam Godwin I ever read, but it's the first one I ever listened to, and gosh, I've really loved a lot of her books. She doesn't have the same narrator for every book like some authors do, like she changes hers up, but Roxy Isles is great. Sea of Ruin is a pirate romance with a female pirate, and a lot of crazy stuff happens. Check your trigger warnings for that one. Then there is the Donna Fletcher audiobooks. These ones are also male narrated, and I believe, is this Derek Perkins? I don't know. Whatever. I started listening to her books earlier this year. They're just so homey and great, and that's the way I feel about her books in general, but it just wraps me up in a cozy hug, her stories. They're pretty action-packed. They're still pretty steamy, but there's not high angst. So it's just a very enjoyable time when I read a Donna Fletcher, and the audiobooks are the way to do that, in my opinion. And then the last one that I want to talk about is Real by Kennedy Ryan, which is a new listen for me, like this, and for everyone. This book just came out June 6th, and this has 3 narrators. It has our hero and our heroine, and then a third who, there is a play that or not a play, there's a movie being produced in this book, and so whenever they're reading parts from this script, there's a different person, and then there's also someone who sings in it, and it's fantastic. So I just loved it. I loved it. It was angsty and wonderful. This is a Hollywood Renaissance is like the series that it's gonna be, but this is a director and his actress, and it's also, check the trigger warnings for this one. But okay, I did it. I went over 15 minutes, but I didn't take too long. These are my favorite audiobooks. I know there's not as many romances on here as you would think there would be, but I wanted to just kind of do a top 10 and show that some of my favorite audiobooks aren't necessarily romance. Like, some of the amazing experiences I've had, the things that have made me the most passionate about romance and on audio actually was other kinds of reads first, because I used to use audio to help me get through those books. Romance, it didn't take that kind of effort, you know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content that I made here, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. It really helps me out. And you can check out more about me down in the description below. I have channel memberships, I have merch that's going to be coming soon, and I'm on like most of the social medias, so check me out down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!